Okay, so welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a quick recap of Wanderlust Season 1, Episode 2. Okay, so it's kind of flashing back and forth. So the episode picks up where the first one left off, with them kind of talking through what having an open marriage kind of means to them and their concerns and that kind of thing. And so while this conversation is going on, it's flashing to them in the present. They're actually getting dressed for a night out on the town. And you know, they basically did I would say, a very good job at just being open and honest with each other. They're very mature about it. I mean, I don't know if I would be that mature. I mean, you can leave that in the comment section, especially if you've been watching the show. Like, you have these two people who've been married for a while. We find out, have 3 children. I thought they only had 2 because they only had the 2 in the first episode. But we find out later on that they have another child, so they have 2 daughters and a son. The son is still in high school. He's the youngest. So they, been married for some time, and they acknowledge that they still very much love each other, but they don't really desire each other sexually. And so this, I guess, this change in their marriage is basically to see maybe how this can kind of help them find their way back to each other. And so, okay, so they're getting dressed, so they're all dressed up, and the first 2 children you saw in the first episode, they're obviously at the house, and they go in acting all weird into the little family room saying, "No, we're going out." And it was like, well, the daughter was like, "Out where?" He said to cinema, she said dinner. They were really acting really weird, but whatever. So they leave the house, and they are scatting and doo-wop popping down the road right here. They're in the car. He's driving, and then he drops her off at a restaurant, and he goes on, right? So she goes into the restaurant to meet Marvin, and it's very interesting to see how they interact with, I guess, their friends with benefits kind of partner or situation. I don't know. Their experience was very different, and I don't know if you could chalk it up to gender or what, but it was very different, and I'm going to explain to you why. So she's in the restaurant and he sits down. So Marvin planned an actual date, okay, and he went on to Claire's house. So it's flashing back and forth between the two of them. And so they're sitting and talking. I don't know if Marvin is in social work or if he's an officer or something, but he's sitting there going over stats of, sexual abuse and CPS and the whole kind of thing. And you can tell she's bored out of her mind, because obviously she's not trying to date anybody because she loves her husband. This is only about fulfilling that sexual desire need. So, I mean, Marvin's cool and all, but she didn't even give a shit what he was talking about. She was like, you know what? Yeah, I just want to fuck. Basically. But okay, so we flash to Claire and Alan. So they're just standing and talking, and I don't know if she was talking about music or what, but he goes in for a kiss. He's very aggressive, ends up kind of almost splitting her lip, and then they get into it. It's very aggressive. It's very animalistic. It's very straight to the point. You can tell this man hasn't opened a condom since forever, because he's like trying to use his teeth to open his condom, which is always a no-no. He gets her and he got her on up on the table, and they did what they do. It was very it was very exciting. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of energy. It was very exciting, and I mean, they both enjoyed it. And he kissed her afterwards and helped her get her dressed together. And it was kind of awkward, a little bit awkward after that. So we flash back to the restaurant where he's talking, and they kind of he kind of was able to read her body language, that she really wasn't feeling what she was saying. And then he started talking about how he trimmed his pubic hairs and he think he may have taken too much off. And she made a joke like, I don't think I took enough off. And it was just a whole thing. So she was like, we don't really have to stay here. We can, if you want to get out here, we can do that. And so they basically hit up a couple of spots and was drunk off their ass, and they ended up going back to his place. Now, her experience was where Alan's experience with Claire was very high energy and very aggressive. Her experience with Marvin was very seductive and sensual. And so, they both had their little tete-a-tete, had their little situation, and she took a cab home. So she get home, and Alan is he's in the bathroom. He's just sitting on the toilet. He's not using the bathroom. He's just in the bathroom sitting on the toilet for some reason. No. So she, goes in and they talk for a minute, and they decide that, they shouldn't have any secrets. Which I guess if you're going to do something like that, and this is all about trust and the whole thing, then that makes perfectly good sense. So they decided they were going to talk about their experience. And so Joy goes first. And she starts talking about, first she started talking about the dinner and the restaurant. He's like, he's just looking at her like, yeah, I think maybe we should just stick to the sex part. Okay, so she kind of goes into describing her experience with Marvin, about how slow and how attentive and sensual it was. And, Alan was getting all hot and bothered. Okay, so he jumps up, and they're about to go at it. I'm like, ooh, use peen and use puss. Good and damn well they ain't shower. But they about to, whatever, honey. Whatever. So, but they get interrupted with the doorbell. I'm like, it's dark. It's like, you can tell it's late. So they're like, who be coming to our house this late at night? So they ring the doorbell, and they, kind of stop for a minute, hoping that the person will go away. And they back into it, and next thing you know, rings again. So now they have to go downstairs. So they're both coming out of the bathroom. At this point, the two children, Tom, I can't remember the daughter's name. They're standing in the hallway seeing their parents come out of the bathroom. The father's in his underwear, no shirt. And they're just like, okay, what was up with that? What y'all doing in there? So this is when you see the other daughter. So she had some bad breakup, and her girlfriends went out, and she just got drunk off her ass. And they ended up having to physically carry her in the house. She couldn't even stand. And so they basically leave her obviously with her parents, and she's an adult, so it's all good. So they're just kind of helped her through the night. Joy stayed up with her, basically slept with her by the toilet, and Alan came in early in the morning to bring her some coffee and whatever, just to let her know that he had a good time last night. And it was, like basically he got really, got excited, and she's like, she did too. So right now, I think because it's new and exciting, that it feels, they have this sense of euphoria and happiness. But I wonder, as time goes on, how that is all going to play out. Because, like I said, I'm always curious to see how open marriages. This is not just a dating, like two people dating. These are people who have been married for a very long time. They've been together. They have two grown children, and one child's almost out. The last one's almost out of high school. So they've been together for a while. So how does that impact your relationship? How does a change like that impact your marriage? It's always interesting. So, okay, well, I guess let's keep watching and see what else goes on in this episode. So, okay, so it's the next morning. Alan leaves for it's Monday morning, I should say, and Alan leaves for work after giving her the coffee. They had the whole talk with the daughter about how they just kind of clowned her a little bit for how messed up she was the night before. And he goes to work and said, he's a teacher. Both him and Claire are teachers at the same school. So he bumps into Claire and another teacher. And so they're walking down the hall, and the other teacher asked him how their weekend was. And he was very, just nothing, very low key. Had met a friend, had had dinner, and I had a great time. And Claire was like, oh, did you? He was like, yeah, I had a wonderful time. And he was like, "Oh, well, Claire, what about you?" He said, she said, "Oh, just the same. Had dinner and met with, had a friend over, had dinner and had a great time." And So I'm looking like you can see the teacher in the middle is kind of like, she's kind of looking at them and go back, kind of banter back and forth. "Oh, I had a great time. It was wonderful. Did you?" "Yeah, I really enjoyed it." "Did you?" "Well, I enjoyed my time with my friend too." And they were just so freaking obvious and just awkward. Okay, so we flash to Tom. It's lunchtime. And he's in the cafeteria. He's sitting at the table with his friends. Now, Tom is in a bit of a triangle, even though he doesn't know it yet. He doesn't realize it yet. So it's one of these situations where he has three friends. Okay, but one of his good friends that you see him most with is a girl, and I can't for the life of me remember her name right now. She clearly has feelings for Tom, but like most teenagers, men in general, boys, he's completely oblivious to it, right? Because all he's focused on is the popular girl in school. He's all about her, or he talks about her. And it's one of those situations where she's his friend and she kind of grins and bear it, even though we can see that she's uncomfortable and she ain't really trying to hear about that bitch, but it is, it is what it is. So it's that kind of situation going on with him. So he's sitting at the table with his friends and he's trying to decide whether or not he's going to go over and talk to her. Now, again, this is lunchtime, cafeteria. All the students are there. So if she clowns the shit out of him, it's going to be all over school. It's going to be in front of the entire school, right? So his friends are like, no, I don't know if I would do that. I would probably message her, try to send her a friend request, message her, be low key with it, right? Because if you go over there and she rejects you and then you send her the friend request, you're going to come off as a stalker. So he turns to his the girl who he's friends with, the other girl, because there's two girls and a guy, but the other girl he's friends with. And he said, "What do you think I should do?" And she was like, "I don't know, just do whatever you want." He was like, "Oh, maybe you could just tell me." And she wasn't going to say shit to encourage him, because she want him. So he decides to work up the nerve. He walks over to the popular girl. And he says, he asked her if she I don't know if this is an author or someone. He asked her if she liked this woman. And she said, yes. He said, well, yeah, I'm trying to get tickets. So I'm on the waiting list for 2 tickets. And I basically want to know if I'm able to get those tickets. Would you like to accompany? And she said, okay. And she surprisingly said, okay. Okay, I'm, high school, teenagers. She about to set this child up to clown the shit out of him. I could just see it now. But anyway, he goes back to the table. And the friends are like, okay, well, yeah, what happened? What did she say? And he just sat there grinning from ear to ear. So, of course, remember that Joy is a therapist. And so she's sitting down with Jason. This is the second time she's met with Jason. Jason, he looks to be like biracial. A very handsome guy. But he gets very upset and emotional when she mentions some woman named Alice. Now, I don't know if Alice left him or if Alice died. But, they're talking, kind of going back and forth a little bit, like the sessions go. And she said, I'm curious about the dream you told me about the sneakers in the fridge. And he was talking about his it's not, it was just, the dream. He said, well, I was, is that in connection to Alice? You can see his demeanor kind of change. First, he was talking about some barista he screwed in the handicapped toilet, and how it was no big deal. He's one of those guys who's very emotional. Things bother him, and he's visibly bothered, but always saying, "No, I'm good. I'm not upset. No, I'm good. I'm not upset." But clearly he is. I mean, his entire body language changed when she asked about Alice. And so he got loud with her, and he's like, "I don't understand why you keep fucking asking me about Alice." And she was getting upset, and she was like, Jason, I asked you about her because I know she meant a lot to you. And I wouldn't, my goal here is not to upset you or make you uncomfortable, but I wouldn't be doing my job if we didn't at least discuss Alice. Well, I said Allison, my name is Alice. Discuss Alice. And he, was kind of, he just kind of sat there for a minute. And so, he understands that she's doing her job, but whatever happened between him and this Alice person has really affected him, which is probably why he's in therapy. The fact that he got that upset and angry over it. So you will keep watching and see what we found out about Jason and Alice. Okay, so Tom is walking with his friend, his good girlfriend, which I still can't remember that girl's name. And he I don't know if I can talk to him, just been a teenage boy. He's just a fucking fool. Like, he says to her, he was talking to her about sex and saying that he thinks, that she has more experience with sex than he does. So he was wondering if they could practice. And she was like, practice what? He was like, I don't know, kissing, fingering, oral. And she looked at him like, dude, what? And so he was like, oh yeah, I just thought that, because if the tickets do come through, I'm, he's going to be prepared for old girl. Like, you going to, because apparently she has this reputation that apparently at her old school, she was very, very free with the treats. And so now he thinks that because she has that, reputation, but it has not been proven, that now he still thinks that she's actually going to go on his date with him, which I doubt. And that if she go on his date with him, that he's going to somehow get lucky. Teenage boys, whatever. And then you want to use your good girlfriend's body to practice on, so you can be ready for some other bitch. And had no problem saying that to her. So she was like, he's like, yeah, and it's just weird, and I just look at you as family. And she said, okay, I want you to think about something for a minute. You just asked to finger me, and then in the next breath say that you think of me as family, and you don't think that's weird? And he kind of sat there with the stuck face, looking like the fool he is. And, she went into a store and he went on home. Like, Tom, what the hell's wrong with you? Okay. So, Tara, I'm going to call her Tara from the United States of Terror. Joy, she's meeting with her therapist. And she's basically recounting, the conversation that her and Alan had. And because obviously the therapist is well aware of what's going on. And she basically explained it was like, a restaurant. She used a restaurant analogy. Like, she's been going to the same restaurant forever. And it's not that the food is bad or that you're sick of the food. It's just, you want something different. So somebody recommends another restaurant. And, it's just, it seems like everything tastes better. And so it's not like this food, same food, it's the same thing. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just different. And so the therapist is like, well, okay. And so she, Joy brought up, potentially telling the children. And the therapist was like, well, why would you need to tell them? She said, well, the mom and dad are sleeping with other people. And the way that she was talking, the therapist was like, it sounds like you're trying to find a way to make what you're doing a bad thing. Instead of, it sounds to me like from what you told me, it seems like, this is bringing you guys closer together. It's like, to the point where you guys almost had sex with each other. And that is the goal, right? And so she was like, well, I think that what we need to do is kind of nail down what you want, what you expect to get out of this, this experience. And be less so much worried about what other people think. And I think that's good in hindsight, but at the same time, you do have 3 children who are all, I don't know if they're all living there, moved back home, but of course the teenage boy is there. And so they're not doing a very good job of being, I just found out that if they don't tell them, that they're going to find out anyway. It's going to be in the most embarrassing and ridiculous way possible. I see that coming down the pike. And so, so she just asked her, so what do you want? And she kind of sat for a minute, sat quietly, and just kind of stared at her like she didn't really have an answer, or at least they didn't, it's almost like she sat there like she really didn't think that far ahead, or like you could see her mind was working like, okay, what do we expect to get? It can't just be about us having sex with each other. There has to be, more to this. So so Joy and Alan, they're setting the table for dinner, and they are discussing whether or not to tell their friends with benefits the deal, the whole situation. And so they agree that they're going to tell them what's going on. Okay. So they're sitting down at dinner with the kids, and they're just talking about relationships and dating, and Laura, Laura, the daughter, the daughter's name, and she was talking about, and the only people you meet in the bar are serial killers and rapists and all kind of stuff. And so she was talking about a date she had with some guy. So, okay. So you see Joy and Alan, they're getting dressed to go back out on the town. So she goes to meet Marvin. He goes to meet Claire. Okay. This is where the bullshit ensues, because I'm trying to figure out what the hell is the problem here with Marvin and Claire. So they sit down, respectively, they're not together. They're separate. They're separate places meeting these people, and they basically said that I just want to be honest with you. My spouse and I, we're trying an open marriage, and my spouse knows about us, knows about you, and they're okay with it. For some odd reason, Marvin and Claire had a huge problem with it and just felt so uncomfortable, like, oh my God. Okay, wait a minute. Now, they never once lied to these people. Now, both Marvin and Claire knew that Alan and Joy were married. They wear their wedding rings. It was never a secret. So, Joy tells Marvin. Marvin talks about, he's sitting there with his eyes all bugged out, like, what the hell did I just get into? Okay, so he talks about his ex-girlfriend who was cheating on him for almost 2 years, and how everybody around him knew it but him. And he's telling her how disappointed in her he is. Like, he wasn't mad, but that he was disappointed in her, and how she's a therapist. Now, you done went down and ate her out and screwed her in your bed knowing that she was married. And now you want to stand up and get past judgment. So now that it's not tawdry and seedy, it's a problem now. The same thing with Claire. He's telling her that, wife knows about it. It's okay. So she was like, just sex. And he was like, yeah. He said, no relationship. Bitch, he's married. You knew he was married. What kind of relationship did you think you was going to have with a married man? And she was like, you know what? I'm going to have to think about that. So it's like, once the cover had been lifted off their eyes, obviously, because Joy and Alan always knew the deal. But once they found out that it wasn't this tawdry, dirty, back alley kind of thing, now all of a sudden they're uncomfortable, and now they have a problem with it. Just bullshit. Bullshit, and more bullshit. Okay, so Marvin gets up, he storms out. Claire, she sits there basically like she has to think about it. Okay, so Joy, she leaves, and she's kind of just walking around, and she comes across this bar. It looks like this little hole in the wall. It has a live band. So she's standing there up at the bar, and this guy offered to buy her a drink, and she was making jokes talking about, my daughter was like, only people you hear to me that bar is a serial killer. And so they kind of laughed about it. He bought her a drink. Okay, flash to Laura. Laura's on her date. Okay, and this guy's a complete asshole. So he's saying that how he makes tables for a living. She said, just tables. He said, yeah. He was like, yeah, I think that if you want to do something, you should focus solely on that. And you should focus on being good at that. And he said something about, he said, I have to be honest with you. I'm not really looking for a relationship. She said, so what was that on your profile? He was like, yeah, I just, as you saw, I'm good with my hands. And I just want you to have one to show you a good time tonight. So basically, he was looking for a damn booty call, right? Just most of these profiles are full of, the people that write these profiles are full of shit. So she, you see her in the bathroom, and she was like, how the hell did I get myself into this mess? And so who walks out the stall? It's a unisex bathroom. So who walks out the stall? Jason. Joy's patient. Now, of course, Laura and Jason don't know each other, so they don't know that they have a connection, which is her mom. So initially she was like, well, what's going on? Because she had this loud outburst like, fuck. Like, because it was just so, this guy, this asshole, right? So he talks to her for a minute, and then they go out. They decide and he's going to pretend like he's their old friend. So he comes out and sits there at the table with them, and they just chit-chat. And you tell the old boy was uncomfortable, right? So after that whole date, the guy ended up going leaving, and it just cracked up, right? So I guess they decided to continue the night. So where did they end up going? To that same hole-in-the-wall bar that Joy was at. So Joy and this guy, they're in the center. They're kind of laughing. They've had a few drinks. They're listening to the band, having a good time. Jason and Laura walks in. They make it to the bar. Joy turns around. She initially sees Jason. Jason is like, oh shit. And then She makes eye contact with Laura. So Laura is confused. Laura is looking at her mom like, what the hell is going on here? Who is this man that's standing next to you all laughing and all just a little too familiar for my taste with you? And Joy is most probably looking like, okay, oh shit, she just seen me with this guy. And what the hell is this fucked up guy who I'm trying to treat for his issues? What is he doing with my daughter? So it's like, it's a whole lot going on. Those girl, it was all in the eyes. It was all in the eyes. It was a lot of communicating, non-verbal communicating going on with these eyes, darting back and forth at each other. So that's basically how this episode ended. The issue's about to hit the fan. I think now at this point they won't have a choice but to tell the kids, because otherwise she's gonna look like the bad guy, look like the whore that's stepping out on their dad, which is how probably Laura's gonna see it if they don't sit down and explain to them what exactly is going on. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in the episodes going forward and what the hell's going on with Jason and okay, so I'm gonna end this here and I'll talk to you guys in the next episode.